Welcome, friends and family, to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show, courtesy of the Barnburner Podcast Network on part of the-barnburner.com's network. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're a big college hoops fan, our theater and college hoops guys have been going ham this week. They've previewed about 6 conferences, got about 10 hours worth of content on our podcast network. So if you're getting excited about college hoops, which starts up this week, check that out for sure. You can find us on Twitter at Backdoor Cut Show. And again, that's the Barnburner Podcast Network. And this is your guy, Zach. Tonight with me, I got Mason, Rich. We're all pretty happy right now. Not because of basketball necessarily, but Memphis Tigers hosted College Game Day yesterday. That's a big deal for all of us. Tigers took home the W. I mean, I feel pretty good. Titans couldn't follow up today.
Hell no.
But, yeah, that's okay. Well, yesterday made up for a lot of things, even though the Grizzlies also lost. But we're going to kind of run through the games that happened this week. It was a short week as far as basketball goes, and then dive into 5 topics. The Grizzlies have played 5 games, so 5 topics is a pretty manageable thing we thought to tackle as well. So we'll get going. Early this week, had a 1-game road trip out to LA.
Hey, man, you're not going to intro me and Rich?
Damn. Straight into it.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Hey, it's good to see you too, Zach, man. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here.
What's up, guys?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Man, you get,
don't want to
my
interrupt.
bad. I had one-track mind. I'm thinking.
We don't want to interrupt your show.
Hey, guys, thanks for joining me here on the Backdoor Cut Show. All right, Mace, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Like you said, a great Tiger win yesterday. Unfortunately, our Grizzlies came with 2 losses this week. But, hey, on the bright side, we led both games at halftime. We almost led the Lakers. Before that JaVale McGee tip-in. So, the young guns can't put 4 quarters together in either game. But other than that, I think we're all feeling pretty good. What's up, Rich?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Like y'all said, beautiful weekend. As far as college football is concerned here in Memphis, College Game Day was just a vibe. Got to check out the game at our boy Mike Miller's new sports bar in Germantown. Let It Fly.
What's the scouting report on that?
A little smaller than I anticipated, but definitely, a cool little spot. A little on the smaller side, but he had it packed out. They had all the screens going with the Tiger game, and it was a good time. So highly recommend driving out to Germantown, checking out Let It Fly.
Be careful, though.
For sure.
Why is that? Germantown, man.
Hey, man, them Germantown PD don't play.
That's
At
true.
all. I was in there like this. 10-2, baby. 10-2.
All right, Zach. Now you can go ahead and we'll dive into the games.
Thank you, sir. All right, early this week, Grizzlies went out to LA, went to go visit Mason for a one-game road trip. Pretty much got destroyed in the second half by one Anthony Davis. You probably heard about this, but he got 40 points, 20 rebounds, 26 to 27 at the line. Jaren fouled out, shocker. Jonas had 14 points, 11 rebounds in 23 minutes. Really just, we can't hang with Anthony Davis pretty much. The lineup that the Grizzlies have, and like Kyle Anderson tried to guard him. I think Clark got thrown at him for a minute. It's just a hodgepodge of folks, but really we just couldn't contain him. That's pretty much a synopsis of that game. I would say.
Yeah, a lot of fouls. Only 18 minutes of Jaren Jackson Jr. on the floor. Ja had 16 points, but only 2 assists and 4 turnovers. And the Lakers, I mean, that was just a game when we didn't have the horses to compete.
Yeah, that is a big team. Like,
they're huge.
The Lakers are big. Like Davis, 7 foot. Dwight Howard, 7 foot. JaVale McGee, like they got really big bodies, and even though a lot of teams are going away from that, that would have been a game. It would have been very helpful to have Jonas be able to play more than however many minutes he logged, because we just didn't have anyone. Jaren he's also 7 foot, but he against anyone his size, he just fouls people.
Yeah, the Lakers outscored us by 27 in the second half. And, I mean, if you remember, we had a 13-point lead early in the first quarter. So they kind of flipped the script on us real quick, and there was not much we could do about it.
Yeah, I knew it had to be a long night when I was going through like the stats and stuff after the game, and I saw that Dylan Brooks was our assist leader with 4. So that just told me everything that I needed to know. Was a lone night in LA. I mean, AD is just a fucking matchup nightmare. Just to be that big and that tall and be that skilled is just a cheat code. So, I mean, the Lakers did what they had to do, getting rid of them kids and getting AD there.
Yeah, so good for them.
Hey, then we had a bunch of days off to get ready for the bright future Suns without DeAndre Ayton. But unfortunately, I don't think any of us really paid attention to that game very much. We know Ja Morant had 24 and 7. He was 2 for 3 from 3. He had 13 points in the fourth quarter, and then 20 of his 24 came in the second half. He shot 8 of 11 in the second half, which the Grizzlies played without Jaren Jackson for the most part, who left the game with an ankle injury, as did Grayson Allen. And I just saw the injury report for tomorrow's game against Houston, and I believe Grayson has already been ruled out and Jaren is doubtful. So hopefully those two guys are all right and can get back in the lineup soon. But another disappointing outing from Jaren before the injury. He had 7 points and 4 turnovers in 22 minutes. I mean, really the only bright spot other than Ja was Brandon Clark had his first career double-double, 16 points, 11 boards to go along with 3 steals and 2 blocks. So some optimism around Clark and Ja for sure, and definitely a level of pessimism boiling over in Grizz Nation regarding Jaren Jackson. Anything you guys want to add on that Suns game?
Well, outside of the fact that they're kind of an interesting team this year. They came in playing. Their record was 3-2 before we played them. You know, Ayton's out, but Frank Kaminsky is now a serviceable role player for them.
Trying to rejuvenate his career.
Aaron Baines averaging 20 points per game. You know, he and Devin Booker are both averaging over 20 points. They've got 6 guys averaging in double figures. So pretty odd team to match up with, especially for us when we have so many gaps on defense that, you know, who do you spend your time guarding? Also, Kelly Oubre, almost Memphis Grizzly. He's playing really well.
Man, got an so smooth game. Much more fluid than Dylan Brooks' herky jerk style.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think more of the same. Like, I wasn't really paying attention to it either. But yeah, I think even going back to free agency when they signed Rubio, I was just like, you know, what is this about? Like, they're not going to be a team to watch. Why is Rubio going here, man? But you look at them and they have, you know, a few people that are trying to rejuvenate their career. They've already got a stud in Devin Booker. Always been a fan of Monty Williams, so I know he'll, you know, be coaching them up. And, you know, John Jaren already had a long morning. They were out at game day, getting interviewed, you know, holding it down for the Grizz.
Can we hit on that? That was like the most
it was so awkward.
There was no reason for that.
It was so awkward.
It was such a forced interview. Like, they did, the questions that were asked made no sense, and that was rough. That was rough to watch.
Facts.
What'd they ask him? I was down there, so I saw that they were like on the TV because they have like pretty much like a screen showing everything, but I couldn't really hear what was being said. What kind of stuff were they talking to him about?
Well, it was like 3 questions, and like, what do you think of this atmosphere? And, you know, they said like it's lit.
Awesome.
It's lit.
Jaren said something about like it seems like Obama came or something with all these people here. And that was about it. Like, they asked Ja one question and then it was over. Like, it was 30 seconds maybe.
Yeah. Just like, hey, there's an NBA team here. Irrelevant to everything else that's going on right now, but
definitely good to see them supporting the city on that big stage. So a lot of eyes did see them representing the city of Memphis, and you know, 2 great guys to have representing our city.
Yeah, it was an awkward interview, but then also, like, conversely, like, Penny came through with the Tigers basketball roster. They just came in cool as hell. They were just up top on the rooftop, man, just getting lit. I don't know if Lester Quinones like just keeps the shades in his pockets, but he's just always ready, man. Just cool ass East Coast swag. So it's just good seeing, you know, the young Grizzlies, the young Tigers in both sports just coming together, all for one purpose, all for the city.
Yeah, and those Tigers, I believe, play their first game this week. So we'll have some Tigers content coming your way as well. But back to the Grizzlies, yeah. And in the game against Phoenix, we led at halftime, even with Ja Morant only having 4 points and Jaren obviously not doing much. So another example of us running out of gas in the second half. And I think it's mainly that when we need a bucket, we don't have a play that we can go to. And our offensive system, which we'll get into in a little bit, just isn't working for the talent we have.
Yeah. I would agree with you there. All right, so what we're going to do is, as I alluded to earlier, we played 5 games so far, so we're going to cover 5 topics. The first topic being Jaren Jackson Jr. and his affinity for fouling. Is that something that we should or should not be worried about at this point in his career? Rich, what do you think?
I will say that, there are often times that Jaren is just, called for some, questionable calls, questionable decisions. But at the end of the day, like, it's becoming an issue. Like, I mean, we've talked about it. We've talked about it at length. And getting the shots is the one thing that we can get into, but actually being able to be on the floor with the guys is a whole nother story. And if you're consistently fouling and consistently in foul trouble and having to have those minutes staggered, that, takes you off the court from being with the guys. So I don't know what needs to be done, like defensively. I don't know if there's sets that can be implemented or, what Jaren has to kind of do to kind of get over that hump, because I think in his reactions, like, you can tell it frustrates him. You can tell that, he doesn't agree with every call. He doesn't like being like pulled out of the game. But, at the end of the day, man, that's the game. 6 fouls and you're out. You're disqualified. So I'm hoping that, it's not too late to rectify. I don't think that it's too late to rectify, but something for sure has got to be done.
Mason, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely something that is worrisome, but I'm willing to give him some more time to figure it out. And my reasoning is that he missed about 25 games to end last season. And he's just getting acquainted in a new defensive system under a first-year head coach and basically brand new teammates on a team that is not really expected to be great defensively like maybe the Grizzlies of years past have been. And then I feel like not fouling is a skill that you can only learn by playing in NBA games. Like, I don't feel like summer pickup you can really work on that. Definitely not a lot of just individual drills you can do to learn how to not foul. Mainly in the summer, your corrective items on fouling is coming through film work, I assume. So I'm willing to give him 20, 25 games here at the beginning of this season. And I would prefer that he not be hobbled by an ankle injury during this window of opportunity, so he can fluidly move around defensively and have a chance to stop this fouling. But that's kind of where I am. Like, I'm willing to admit it's a problem, but I'm also willing to give him some more time, just because I think you can only learn to stop fouling by playing in actual NBA games, which is harder to do when you pick up 2 fouls early in the first quarter. And I mean, like Rich said, to his overall game, like, his body language has been shitty, for lack of a better term, when he has been in foul trouble, even though he's still a great cheerleader on the bench. But it's just, I mean, he's only averaging 13 points and 5 rebounds in 25 minutes. Whereas if you compare that to Lauri Markkanen, who's averaging just 5 more minutes, 30 minutes a game, he's averaging 17 and 9. And that's just much more of an impact on the game. And without Jaren producing at a higher level, the Grizzlies are going to be in for a whole bunch of ass whoopings.
Yeah, if you look at Jaren and just kind of some of his basic numbers, how he's comparing. So he's drafted 4th overall last year, right? Well, he's not really playing at that level at this point compared to the rest of the sophomores. If you look at his points, he's 9th in points per game. He is 9th in minutes. He's 8th in rebounds, and he's 34th in assists. So, like, he doesn't even average 1 assist per game, which is kind of, yeah. That also ties back to how little he's touching the ball, which also ties back to the problem that we're talking about right now, is that he's not in the game, largely due to faults of his own. And referees, I got it, whatever, the extra ones. But on Reddit this week, someone did a data pull from a Basketball Reference, which, side note on Basketball Reference, if you go and look up the Memphis Grizzlies right now, you know how they have the, like, coach, let's see what else is at the top. They have, like, the record, the coach, and then the executive. Guess who's listed as the executive for the Grizzlies?
Chris Wallace.
Yeah, Chris Wallace still listed. Come on, B-ball ref. Let's get that fixed. We got to. Maybe that is why we're 1-4. Could it be?
I think the latest reports have him legitimately being in a scouting role for the Grizzlies. Like in this front office, he is currently scouting for the Grizzlies. He was at the Memphis Pro Day as a Grizzlies executive.
Yeah. Wow.
He don't die, man.
No, but he's sure in the executive that needs to be having his name out there. Just please fix. That's my only complaint, B-ball ref. You're awesome otherwise. I digress. Back to someone did a Reddit a poll for a Reddit post about Jaren's fouls. So what they did is they looked at 19-year-old and 20-year-old seasons, filtered by minutes per game over 25, and looked at fouls per 36 minutes back to 1945. So the beginning of time in World War II. He has, so last year as a 19-year-old, he averaged 5.2 personal fouls per 36 minutes, which is the most ever for a 19-year-old since 1944. Second was Wendell Carter at 4.9 in the same year, also last year. Devin Booker at 3.8, and then Sean Livingston at 3.6. And then you got Kobe, Darius Miles, Chris Bosh, Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard.
Chris.
Speaking too fast, Chris Bosh. There's a lot of mashing syllables there, I guess. So if you look at that, you can be comforted that, okay, a lot of really good players have had issues with foul troubles early on in their career, right? But he's averaging 1.5 more, sometimes two solid fouls more per 36 minutes than some of those guys. So that's pretty concerning. So that's last year. Look at this year. His per 36 is 6.6, still the most ever for a 20-year-old from 1944 to present day. So he can't even play 36 minutes in a game because he'd have over 6 fouls, almost 7 fouls. Behind him on that list, also Wendell Carter, then Boogie Cousins, and then some other people that are, not really of note. Josh Jackson's on the list at number 11. Good for him. But that's concerning to me that the trend has gone up, and that the list of notable people, like long-term superstars, really falls off. So the 19-year-old, I get it, but the 20-year-old, I'd really expect to see some more discipline there. So to me, I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I wonder if he's been involved in more pick and rolls this season, because it seems like our defensive strategy is to kind of have the big sag and the guard chase over the top, and then the opposing team's guard who has the ball is just coming straight downhill at our big, which puts the big in almost an impossible situation. I'm not saying that's why he's fouling more, but we might need to dive into the numbers a little more to see if it's part of the system.
Oh, there's always a story to tell, for sure. That's just the first layer of the onion.
Hey, man, stop fouling, Jaren. Damn.
I don't want to be talking about. That's not fun to talk about. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
All right. So, and also I did a poll on Twitter. So a lot of you guys agree with Mason on this one, that I think got a couple hundred responses on, should we be concerned now, or should we not be concerned? Jaren's young. Don't worry too much about it. And about 80% of people said he's young. Don't worry about it. So clearly I'm in the minority here. And most of you guys think that everything will work itself out. But he's got to get minutes on the floor, sustainable minutes in a row, and get in a groove. It's all just like a catch-22 of sorts. So moving on from Jaren, Professor Mason, how do you feel? How do you feel about the Grizzlies' pace?
Oh, God.
These are my Nancy glasses.
For those of you that aren't watching us on Periscope or YouTube, Professor Mason has entered the building with his spectacles. It'd be better if they were rec specs, but actual spectacles is good.
Hey, I'm a true player for real. I ain't got no rec specs.
So give me your thoughts on the Grizzlies' pace of play, which is drastically faster than last year's and
All right.
ever really.
I'm going to start with some numbers from Cleaning the Glass. Only 76% of the Grizzlies' plays have been ran in a half-court context. And that is the fewest amongst NBA teams, meaning we've ran the fewest amount of plays in a half-court context, which on the flip side, we have 19 possessions that start with transition and is third most in the league. So to Taylor Jenkins and his staff's credit, the team appears to be playing the way that they want to play. Now, here's the problem. On those transition plays, the Grizzlies are 29th in the league in points per play and 29th in the league in points added per possession. Both of those are at the next to last in the league. So while we're getting all of these opportunities in transition, we are not good at doing anything with those opportunities. So that's problem number one. Then once that transition settles into the half-court context, which I already mentioned, we have the fewest amount of half-court opportunities in the league, our offense improves just a bit, where we're 27th in the league in points per play. So no matter if we go the transition route or we pull it out in the half-court, we can't score.
Our offensive rating is 29th in the league right now. So we ain't getting buckets, basically.
Yeah, and you might think that we're letting it fly a lot more, but only 30% of the Grizzlies' shots are coming from beyond the arc, and that is 27th in the league. So we're still fourth from the bottom in terms of three-point attempts per game. We're 29th in three-point accuracy, and we're just 24th in finishing at the rim. So however, the one bright spot, we shoot the most frequent short mid-range shots in the league between 4 and 14 feet, which is where this offense does not want to garner shots, if you remember correctly. We're trying to finish at the rim and shoot threes.
Rich, what do you think is...
Let me get one more number off my chest,
dude,
okay?
Lay it on us.
This, I think, is the biggest problem with the Grizzlies offense. Per synergy, Jaren Jackson does not have 10 possessions through these 5 games as the roll man in pick and roll situations. So he has not set 10 picks and made a move after that. That also counts him popping out to the 3-point line. That's worrisome when most Grizzlies fans and people around the league want to see Jaren Jackson and Ja Morant pick and rolls. Now, where else did Jaren excel last year? On the block. We all remember the left-handed hook.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Jaren does not have 10 post-up possessions per synergy on the season. So if we're not putting him in the pick and roll, we're not putting him on the block.
Is he playing?
He's just fucking standing out there, and we're not using our best player. No wonder he wants to commit fouls. Like, geez. So that's yeah, man. That's where I stand on the Memphis Grizzlies offense.
Rich, do you have like a bright spot or what?
Shit, like my first bright spot is definitely like Mason's finger, just going through that whole segment, the little finger wag. He was just hitting him with like they just added to everything. Like just like no. But shout out to Mason with the stats, man. I think that's very that's not good. To Mason's point, we talked about what the offense was supposed to look like this year with this new coaching staff, and it's the complete opposite. I'm sure half of that is accounted for Brandon Clark's little like running floater thing in the lane that he likes to do, but it's just weird, man. And when you hear those stats regarding Jaren, I came into this season, salivating for some giant Jaren pick and roll action, whether rolling to the cup or popping out for 3. And one thing, I just don't think Jaren's 3-point shot has looked that good this season. It doesn't look like he's setting his feet. It's still the awkward release, but it just hasn't looked good.
He shoots like a high school girl.
Yeah, he's like where they're pushing it and like they're using all their might to get that shit to the rim. Yeah. It's just not pretty. And yeah, when you speak to those stats, to Zach's question, like, is he out there? Like, what's he doing? if you're not being involved in the offense like that, it's so easy to become disengaged, especially if you're dealing with foul trouble. It's like, well, shit, I'm already not out here, but when I'm out here, I'm really not even out here. So we've got to find a way to showcase who has been anointed our franchise player. That's what, we all came to the season thinking. And that's what I think Jaren does have the capability to possibly potentially become. But with these stats and these sets, it hasn't manifested yet, and it doesn't seem like he's being set up for success offensively. And something's got to be done.
Yeah, Jaren, man, we really bashing on Jaren today.
Yeah,
but his usage rate is the 4th lowest in the starting lineup. So that means there's 3 other guys out of 5 that are more involved than he is on buckets.
To be fair to Jaren, Dylan and Jay ain't passing up no.
Jay shooting that hoe.
I mean, like I said, I think it was last week. It's obvious that Jay is under direct orders from the coaching staff to help implement this let it fly and just shoot as much as possible. Like I believe that wholeheartely.
Yeah,
but he's 0 for 8 last game, so
yeah, and even in the game against Brooklyn, he hit the only 2 points he had, he had 6 points, and one of the 2 buckets he had was the game winner. So it might seem like he did a whole lot in that game, but he didn't.
Really didn't.
Not on the offensive end, at least. But I look at this, so I'm trying to be optimistic. So we clearly are not shooting well. When we beat Brooklyn, we shot 42% from 3. Every other time, we're shooting like 20 to 30. And we're not shooting that many. So part A of Jenkins' new system, play faster. Okay, we got it. Like, that's step A. We got that firmly implemented through 5 games. Now, if we are going to shoot the ball, we need to start shooting the ball. But also, we know that the team that we have right now is not the people that we need out there to shoot the ball. We're not staffed with that group of people yet. So that's work that the front office has to go do to staff us with the people to implement that offense to make it actually successful. Because right now we're going down, taking bad shots, not shooting the threes that we say we want to shoot. But it is about building that culture of what's the standard going forward. I kind of think about, it's kind of a debate that we've had, I know several times about, do you build an offense around the talent you have, or build a system around the talent you have, or do you like have a system and then bring in the talent for that system? So if you think about like in college, you got Syracuse, they always run a zone. They've been running a zone forever. So they bring in people that can run that. Or do you look at someone like Duke, who brings in the best talent they possibly can and then implements a system, like them and Calipari. Every year they're changing based on the talent that they have and the players that they have. So that's, two different approaches you can take. And we're moving towards that direction, but we really suck at it so far. And a lot of it is our players are inexperienced, they're getting fatigued, and it's not the right personnel in the first place. But it is encouraging to see the pace. At least it gives us a good half of basketball while we've been able to jump out on teams, which has not always been the case. So some of the game is in hand, at least until the second half. So it gives us something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, and with Ja and Jaren, you want to play fast and get up and down the court. But at the same time, as the coaching staff, even at this stage of implementing the offense, you got to be able to implement second and third reads to where Jaren gets the ball on the block, JV gets the ball on the block, Jaren, Ja, pick and roll. Just too much settling for bad shots from bad shooters, and just not even looking at Jaren on the post, whether that's in transition or whether that's 10 seconds into running the offense. So just kind of disheartening on those fronts from some of the, I guess, role players that they're not willing to give the ball to the stars. Got to establish the roles for these guys.
Yeah, I almost feel like some of these guys are playing for their own contracts, maybe for where they hope to get traded or trying to sign already, looking forward to the offseason, knowing that there's not going to be a playoffs with this current team, and maybe not paying as much attention to what Taylor Jenkins is trying to implement here. Like Jay, man, like he's just like you said, he's not going to pass the ball. He's trying to get his numbers up so that when he gets traded, he can have a higher value and maybe have some control over where he goes.
I mean, I don't really think that's on him though. Like, I think he has been told to shoot every time you touch the ball, like, to help establish that culture of let it fly. But with the pace going as fast as we do comes turnovers, especially with the young point guard. And before we dive into Ja, the team as a whole is 28th in the league in turnovers per game, and we allow 22 points per game off those turnovers, which I believe is worst in the league. And we allow the most fast break points in the league. So hard to win when the other team is just racing down, shooting layups. And then we also allow the second most second chance points in the league. So also not getting the boards and, boxing out. So when you add all those things together, it's easy to see how we only have one win. And it's that night seems like a rare blip on the radar where we just hit 40+% from three and happened into a win. So a lot of bad basketball from this Grizzlies team so far.
No doubt. Moving on to a brighter subject. So let's celebrate Ja Morant here for a minute. He's been awesome so far this year, at least by my standards. I'm very pleased. Outside of the fact that he and Jaren only hang out off the court and on the court, don't seem to like look at each other or pass each other the ball, whatever. Outside of that, he's done a lot of good things. Very exciting. He can score a lot of points. Rich, tell me more about what Ja's done. How do you feel about his performance so far?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, like you said, like I just have been very pleased with Ja for everything that I came into the season expecting. I think it really came to a head last Sunday. That Brooklyn game, granted it seems like an anomaly and it seems like forever ago when we came out with that dub, but that fourth quarter and overtime was just enthralling. Like he just really put the team on his back. We kind of knew he came in with this like no fear mentality, and we're really able to see it. Like he doesn't back down from an opponent, doesn't back down from a big name superstar. And he's gonna, try his best to will his team to victory. I've appreciated, seeing, the way he attacks the rim, the way he, is able to kind of get his shot. I don't appreciate like how much he has to take and tumble and fall. He takes a lot of hard falls, but I'm very interested to see how he'll come back, next season after a full off season of training with the NBA program, getting more strength, getting larger. But yeah, man, I just think we really kind of hit the lottery. See what I did there? We hit the lottery and we're able to draft a transcendent talent. He seems very invested in Memphis, very invested in the Grizzlies, and we know it's going to be a long season. We came into it knowing that. But I think that, with Ja having the keys to this franchise, I'm excited to see where we'll go because I know that one thing that I don't think he possesses is a loser mentality, and he won't want this team losing for long. So.
Yeah, I mean, you see it at each game in the fourth quarter when their back's against the wall. He's the one trying to will them back in. So definitely not a loser. The one negative on Ja is he's averaging 4.8 turnovers per game, which ranks him in the third percentile of guards in the league on cleaning the glass. We knew that was going to happen. He's a rookie point guard, and we're playing faster than hell. Like, that's just going to happen, and especially when your teammates are – middling NBA players for the most part, and you're not allowed to pass to Jaren Jackson. But he's also averaging 5.5 assists per game, which ranks him in the 70th percentile for guards. So that's good to see. 18.8 points, almost 19 points, I think is more than any of us would have expected at this point, on 51% shooting from the floor and 50% from three. Granted, it's only 10 attempts, but I hope to just see him continue to shoot the three. His shot hasn't been awful. It's not the prettiest thing like Jaren Jackson, but it's worked for the most part. So, and he's got the confidence, it seems, that he's not going to like change the mechanics or anything. So just start shooting that thing, young fella.
Yeah, and to go back to you kind of mentioned where he ranks in the league in terms of a couple of those numbers. So he, as far as rookies this year, he's second in points only behind Kendrick Nunn, who just,
Whew.
I mean, that guy just, I don't know what you do. Just Google that, man. He's just destroying everyone this year. And, Memphis, funny that we got that was our opening game. We got to see that, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, you even listen to, The Ringer, Woj, some of those guys sound like, totally off the radar for the most part.
Yeah. Well, he went to Illinois. He was a 4-star, I think, like top 100 recruit. And then he had a domestic violence issue and wound up at Oakland University, which is a much, much smaller school. And he was second in the country in scoring 2 years ago, played in the G League last year. So now getting an opportunity in Miami where they're known to develop players. And he's making the most of it. Hopefully he's learned from his mistakes and can have a productive NBA career in life.
Yeah, no doubt. And so we talked about the 5 assists that he's bringing in per game. That is the most among all the rookies.
There we go.
Wow. That's pretty positive.
Do you have who's second?
Second is Darius Garland, and he has 3.5. So he has a solid 2 more assists per game than the next closest person. And Ja's playing 1 more minute than him. So, that is good. The turnovers are high. We're also playing at the fast pace, so you expect that to level out. The 3-point shooting is good.
3 players in the rookie All-Star game. Could have Ja, Brandon, and Jaren. Sorry, that just hit me. back to Ja's 3-point shooting.
It's live.
No, I think that's encouraging, and just the overall, he's shooting over 50% from the field. So that's a positive thing for sure.
And 64% of his points he scored have been scored in the paint. So even with his slight frame, really not a problem for him scoring in the paint, even though we know it could be a little better. He's just got to learn how he's going to maneuver around those bigger bodies. And obviously he's got to go hard to the rim on dunk attempts and learn when to dunk and when to just finesse it.
And he does have the highest usage rate of all rookies. Obviously, he's bringing the ball down, controlling a lot of what's going on, but just something to just to keep in front of you there. That he came into a very bad team. He's on a bad team, but he's also, playing a big part of trying to get that team better. I would be concerned if the usage rate was really low and he wasn't performing on the bad team. Then that would be kind of a sign of concern. But so far this year, he's been the bright spot. We were really hoping that this would be Jaren's time to kind of take the team over. But really, it's been Ja's team this year, honestly.
Yeah, and just want to see him and Jaren get better. Right now, they're averaging minus 2.5 points per 100 possessions, and that's in 86 minutes they played together on the floor. So
that's pretty solid sample size.
That and the turnovers are the only complaints from me with Ja. Otherwise, you've been great.
P.S. We love you.
Yeah, because we know he's listening.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to go into ranking the super exciting wing players that the Grizzlies have. Mason, who's the top, who's the bottom feeders?
I guess I'm putting Dylan Brooks at the top. He has performed relatively well from a numbers perspective. So I'd give him the nod, and then my bottom feeder would be Marko Guduric. Been really disappointed with his play so far, just not really seeing what he can do at an NBA level yet, but he's still kind of young, so we'll see. We got him for 2 years, so hopefully he can make something of carve out a role and start knocking down shots maybe. That'd be cool.
You know what he's shooting from 3?
Shitty.
No, take it. Just take a guess.
Like 15%.
What do you think, Rich?
21%.
8%.
Oh, damn.
Oh shit!
I could shoot. Okay, I'm not gonna say that. And he's putting up several attempts per game. Also, just been not good. I want to see something happen. His offensive rating is 77.
Damn.
So he's a huge negative when he's out there on offense. On defense, he's kind of in line with the rest. He's got the worst defensive rating of all the wings, but by a slim margin, nothing that's substantial. What are you seeing on the wings, Rich?
I mean, literally I'm gonna have to give the upper echelon to Dylan, and it's really just like, you know, the best of the worst, honestly. I think our wing rotation has left a lot to be desired. It's just not competitive NBA wise to NBA standards. But I mean, Dylan has shown up for the most part. I really enjoy it when Dylan just catches and shoots. And he, has been a part of the offense so far. And hopefully it's looking like he's, feeling back healthy, feeling back at least 100% after, such a down year last year injury wise. And for the bottom for me, last week I believe it was Grayson, but I'm gonna have to go with Marco too, man. Grayson did do a little something this week. I know he was on the court, and I know he hit a shot because I saw a highlight where he hit a shot, and so he impacted the game in that way. Hope his injury isn't too severe with the ankle. But yeah, just knowing that Marco got a 2-year contract, man. We were told that this overseas player, he was a shooter. That's what we were told. Coming in, this is a shooter. He's going to come in, he's going to shoot the rock. And I just haven't seen that. And I don't know what other ways he impacts the game outside of being this shooter that he's proclaimed to be. So, yeah, I think, it's still early. He still has time to, ingrain himself into, the culture of the NBA pace and speed, but definitely leaving a lot to be desired, especially for somebody who is going to be around for not only this season, but the next, like for certain.
Zach, you got anybody different for your top or bottom?
Man, they cut Ivan Rabb could shoot 8% from 8, right? Come on, man.
Yo, boy.
Oh, man. No, that's pretty much it. I think Dylan, if he is your – I think if he is maybe like the 4th or 5th guy on your team – that's still not a good team. Never mind. Take it back.
No, like 7th or 8th.
But all I know is like in the NBA, that 2-guard position is so many times your very best player. And for the fact that we have someone that should be like your 7th player, really 7th or 8th player, then it kind of sucks.
Yeah,
sucks. Yeah. So
but he has improved and he's shooting well. So like I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean on the catch and shoot, his numbers are like some of the best in the league. So that's inspiring. It's just when he tries to do a little too much. He's just got to settle into his role, just no matter how bad the team is. And I know he wants to do more just out of his competitive nature to help us win. But it will be more beneficial to him to settle into his role and watch his numbers increase and make him look better, especially in a contract year. So Following Dylan, I had Jay Crowder, just kind of by choice, ranked 2nd. I excluded Kyle Anderson slow-mo from the wing because he's mainly been used as a big man, like a 4-man. But I would have him number 2 if I could include him. Didn't know if we were counting him. Then I had Solomon Hill right in the middle and Grayson right before Marco.
Yeah, Hill's a guy that, I think he's done good enough to get a couple more minutes per game. He's actually shooting 50% from 3 on almost 3 attempts per game. And his other numbers are like his defensive rating's 108. That's the best of all the guys you just listed. So, I mean, he's kind of a jack of all trades. I'm putting one foot in that camp right now. I really am. And even though he played down low the other day against Brooklyn, he played close out the game. It was pretty much like the 4-5. I don't really know what to expect on a night-to-night basis of who's playing what position and everything, but I'm certainly willing to watch him play more, especially because he could certainly be a guy that you can flip for something. I think it's in our best interest for him to have a pretty good year so that we can trade him, just for some more assets towards the trade deadline. Because I think is he on an expiring this year?
Yeah, 1 year, $12 million, but man, come on, it's Solomon Hill. We know what he is. How you feeling about the wings, Rich?
I mean, shit, yeah. Like, it's Solomon Hill. We know what it is. That Brooklyn game was wonderful to see for him, but then the Laker game, like, he was just getting – they tried to have him guard LeBron, and that just – like, no. like, stop.
We don't have that person.
We don't have that person. There's no one on the roster who can do that. But, yeah, I think – I think that was a good caveat Mason mentioned. If we were to include slow-mo, he would definitely be number 2 on my list as well. I've just seen him be more confident this year in playing his game. Like, you're never going to get Kyle to not play his game at his pace. And he's been finishing like all of those little layups, man, like at the cup. And he's just, able to be able to handle the ball at that height. as fluidly as he can. It's just, he's really a cool little mismatch. Slow-mo is kind of doing his thing. Like to see him this year. Jay would be fourth. I know like the young guys really respect him. He's kind of that vet in the locker room, boss man. And he really seems to be, ingrained in the culture, and a lot of people are becoming a fan of him. But, I know he's somebody that's not going to be around for the long term. So there's only so much stock I can really put into that. And then we got Grayson, and then Marco, man. It's just, I don't know. Like, I just don't know, like, in what capacity he's, contributing to the rotation, contributing to this team effectively, positively. And yeah, when you talk about rosters, that 2 and that 3 spot is just so vital for any 5 on the court in the NBA game. And I think that's definitely like our weak link on the roster so far. The wing play. Jaws look great. Tyus has been, a great backup point guard. Granted, I have been seeing DeLon Wright going off in Dallas this year, but that's another story for another show. And yeah, we got the big. So yeah, man, that wing play, just something's got to give. I don't know, man.
Definitely, it seems like some opportunity for DeAnthony Melton, potentially.
Oh yeah.
Josh Jackson, if he can, abide by whatever these non-rules and parameters are that Kleiman and Co. have set for him, that he is not talking about to the media. Josh Jackson is definitely the most talented player out of all those guys.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a matter of if we'll see him, but more so a matter of when he gets the call up to the big club. So we got all those guys on the wing. Then we go into the front court, and there's one person we've been assured is not going into the game, and that's our boy Bruno Caboclo. So how are we feeling about our boy Bruno just over there getting splinters in his ass?
Bro, it just it just sucks.
I don't know if that's a commonly used term, but that was great.
You just see him and like you just fucking know he's not getting in the game. He knows he's not getting in the game. Like the warm up is just crispy, it's clean. It takes me back to like football with like the guys with the clean uniforms. Like you don't want a clean uniform. That means your ass don't play. And I don't know. I mean, Bruno was brought back for a reason, right? Like they saw something in him. They signed him. They chose him for one of those final roster spots. And it's very interesting that he still isn't seeing the court time with JV on a minutes restriction. JV is only going to start playing more once he gets fully healthy again. And when we look at the 4s and the 5s, it's not like we're that deep. We cut Plumlee was one of the final cuts. It's not like there's just an abundance or an array of big men for us. And I definitely think Bruno could serve a purpose playing as a small ball 5 in some instances, whether that's just absorbing some fouls, getting some rebounds, playing solid defense. But it's just clear that he's not a part of the rotation in addition to DeAnthony Melton for some other reason. And I would just love, at 1-4, 1-3, whatever our record is, let's see something. Let's try some guys out. What do we have to lose, especially in this year? Like there's no expectations.
I got to think this week could be a week where we see some of those guys. The Grizzlies got 4 games. We got Houston on Monday, the Timberwolves on Wednesday, at Orlando on Friday, come back home, play the Mavericks on Saturday. So Jaren is, what was he listed as, questionable, doubtful, one of those two. JV on a minutes restriction. You're already going to be pretty small. So I've got to think that Bruno will make an appearance and get some random minutes this week. So what will he make the most of it? That's the question. So yeah. I really hope he does, because I feel like he's one of these players that just gets like a cult following. Like it's just so intriguing. Mm-hmm. Like the long arms, like streaky shooting, stoic face.
I don't know if y'all saw last night, but he cut his hair so he looks like young Bruno once again.
Oh, he cut the hair?
Super low cut, yeah.
Oh, shit, okay.
And one thing that y'all mentioned about him being a small ball 5, I'm wondering if that's not the problem. I think last year we played him even more as a 3, and we didn't count on him to be the 5. And this year he's only seen minutes at the 5 and he's played all of his minutes alongside Brandon Clark. So I'd be interested to see him in there, maybe with Clark, Jaron, and Bruno, allowing Bruno to just be additional length who helps in from the wing. Because you remember last year, a lot of his blocks were like from the weak side, and then his tips and things like that, they were just added bonus. So maybe we shouldn't rely on him solely as a 5, especially with the lack of talent on the wings, as we just discussed. Maybe that could help free Bruno up, and maybe he's just not meant to be a 5. I know he was protecting the rim some in FIBA, but I don't think his natural instincts are to be a 5-man per se. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets more minutes at all, and if so, where those minutes come in terms of his position in the lineup.
Well, shoot, we just went through and talked about how bad the wings were. Put him out on the wing.
Like, give him his chance. Yeah.
So,
I mean, we also talked about how huge the Lakers seemed with all their length and big guys. And if you got Bruno at the 3 or the 4, he's going to be bigger than whoever he's going against.
Yeah, I just remember last year the Spurs were in town. We're playing them, and he stuffed LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay. He's just flying around, defending the rim. That can be useful, I feel like. I mean, LMA, he's not like the most fleet of foot. He's not making the most athletic plays anymore, but he's still a big guy. Still 6'10", big-bodied guy who pushes people around, and Bruno was hanging with him. There's usefulness for that type of player.
So, I mean, I guess to the larger point, who would y'all want Bruno to take the minutes from? We mentioned JV, Jaron. We know there's anchor in the starting lineup of the bigs. Then Kyle and Clark have been getting minutes. I don't think we necessarily want him to play over any of those guys, and all of those guys have somewhat of a future with the Grizzlies. So why not play him over some of these wing guys like Solomon Hill, maybe even Jay Crowder sometimes, or at least, dwindling down those guys' minutes and giving a share to Bruno.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good start. I mean, like you said, I can't foresee any of those front court players me wanting him to kind of supersede them in the rotation because they've all really looked solid thus far this season. But the wings, man, I mean, yeah, it's just why not? I mean, I guess that's my mantra. Like, why not? Like, what do we have to lose? And like we stated, just the length, the versatility that Bruno's able to bring to the court, and he does kind of elicit a cult following, if you will. Like, people just like him. Like, he seems like a good guy. People want to root for him. So yeah, I would love to see him get some action this week, especially with 4 games. We've got some guys banged up. So I would love to see him get some court action this week. Now, if he doesn't get any this week, then I just kind of like
confused.
Don't know. Yeah, I would be kind of lost. So yeah, we shall see, I guess.
Cool. All right, guys. Got anything else?
Hey, the starting lineup is plus 8.7 per 100 possessions in 44 minutes, so it ain't all bad. There's been some signs.
Okay, some.
We got 5 lineups that have played more than 5 minutes together with positive differentials. The one is the starters. The one with the next most minutes played, 15 minutes, that is Grayson, Kyle, Brandon, Marco, and Tyus Jones. Marco is actually on 3 of the 5 lineups that have positive differentials. So maybe we have jumped the gun on that. The one that he's not in is Ja, Solomon Hill, Jay Crowder, Brandon Clark, and Dylan Brooks, which Ja is only in 2 of the lineups, the starting unit and that one. And then Jaron is only in 2 of the lineups as well, the starting lineup, and when he is alongside Tyus, Marco, Jay Crowder, and Brandon Clark, who have played 13 minutes together. So what's
feels like it's hard to pull a discernible pattern out of all that.
Yeah, really not a lot. There's only, like I said, those 5 lineups have played more than 5 minutes together and have a positive differential, and we've obviously been getting whooped a lot. Marco is the name that appears the most, though.
Wow.
Like you challenged me earlier. I think we'll have to dig deeper into that one.
Tyus also 3 times. The concerning part to me is Ja and Jaron only in 2 of those lineups each.
Yeah, they should be in like 3 or 4.
And only one of those lineups are them together.
Oh gosh, yeah. I would expect the
That's
lineup
it.
with both of them to be. I mean, you want that one to be probably in 3 of your 5 best lineups. Starting the game, closing the game.
Right. So we'll see. Hey, we're not hoping for too many wins this year. We just want to see the small improvements. And from Ja and Jaren specifically, we could really give a damn about anyone else. We will include Brandon Clark.
Brandon Clark,
Yeah,
put
Brandon
him in
Clark
there.
for sure.
Would like to see some Bruno improvement. That'd be cool. Maybe some Marco, some Grayson, some Josh Jackson.
Now you just listen to the
Everybody.
rest.
Hey, I'm just the people who have potential to be around. We know Jay and Solomon Hill. They just getting a cup of coffee in Memphis and they'll be gone.
Faux show. All right, check us out on the Barn Burner Podcast Network. Give us a review. Give us some stars. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the cool places like that. Check out the-barnburner.com for game previews, wrap-ups, other awesome articles. I'll just say it. A lot of Memphis Tiger stuff. Also check out the theater and college hoops guys on the Barn Burner Podcast Network.
They got everything you need to get ready for the college season. I mean, those guys know so much about college basketball. It is ridiculous.
Listen to a couple of their shows, and I think you will be incredibly impressed at the amount of knowledge that they have.
Yeah, they got conference previews for every conference in the nation, or all the major ones at least. So check those guys out for sure.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us.
Put Jaren in the pick and roll, baby.
Peace.